Welcome. Today, I am really pleased to have Sylvia Douglin with us. She has been in the hospitality industry for over 20 years, including as an on-property director of human resources at a full-service hotel in Arlington, Virginia. And for the last 17 years, she's been directing training initiatives in the C-suites of three major third-party management companies. And she also offers training in professionalism and business communication at colleges through her own firm, Refined Training and Consulting. So welcome, Sylvia.
Thank
So good
you.
to have you. Wonderful. Thank you. So I was hoping we could start and talk a little bit about your background and your career. And maybe we could start with how you got interested in human resources and training and how that led you to hospitality.
Okay. I have again been training. I've been training somebody in something since the 80s, and I started out at Digital Equipment Corporation. If anybody remembers what that is, it became Hewlett Packard, and they had a program for diversity. They were trying to introduce diversity into that organization, and they were looking for people to train who had trained something before, and they were looking for people of color and women. And I raised my hand and said, I've trained people before. I'm a woman and I'm a person of color. So I checked all the boxes off, and so I went into their program, and that's how I got into corporate training. Very different than a classroom training situation. And I did that individually and around the country. And I ended up with a management consulting firm. And that's how I really got into the high end corporate training um, for years. And one of our clients turned out to be big hotel companies. And I went and trained with them. I then ended up working for them, and I was in the HR unit. So that was around 2000, year 2000. And I've been in hotels and doing training with them, for them, all this time.
Wonderful. So as a director of training, what are the key things that you focus on?
Well, in the hotel industry, we focus on leadership, because if the leaders of the properties are not strong and really taking their people to the next level and insisting on quality, those sorts of things, then that it really doesn't work very well. And you want to make sure that our leaders understand how to lead people. I teach customer service. I used to teach back in the day harassment prevention and those sorts of things. And I also make sure that training is going on at all the various properties, that the brands have training that the individual hotels have to adhere to, so making sure that's happening, and safety and things like that. So I make sure all that is going on at the properties.
Got it. So one of the other skills you teach is building your personal brand. So I'm curious how you build your personal brand and any tips you might have for our viewers.
Well, your own personal brand is critical, because that is what you're putting out to the world. And people think, well, I've got my college degree and my mother says I'm wonderful, and that's all I need. Off I go. Well, no, you've got to be seen by your colleagues as a viable member of the team. So this is this is looking at it from the work side. The personal side, it kind of goes into that a little bit as well. But it's, how do you present? What do you say? When do you say? How do you read the politics in any organization that you belong to? What do you look like? And that doesn't mean that you have to look like a Kardashian or any of that sort of thing. But do I look right for where I'm going, who I'm seeing right now? And then, so your personal brand, after a while, it begins to be how people expect you to show up. And you can end up getting an opportunity to do things that you might not have gotten a chance to do. Or if it's not working for you, sometimes you're asked, oh, she's great, but no. So your brand is going to go out before you when you're not there to speak for yourself. So you really have to understand, what are you putting out?
Right, right. That makes sense. So I wanted to ask you, you've been doing training for a long time, and how have your skills evolved from when you first started working, not just in training, but when you first started in your career versus now? Have you found that the skills that you need evolve over your career?
They have. When I first started training, it was stick to the script and make sure people, it was almost as if back in the day you were taking classroom training into the corporate world. And you know how it is in school, you sit down, fold your hands, and listen to the teacher. Well, over the years, what I have discovered is that really not effective at all with adults. Doesn't work that well with kids either, but that's another story. But with adults need to share and exchange. And so what I have learned over time is how to stay with my program, making sure time and the salient points are being covered and all that, while allowing an exchange with the audience, with the participants, so that they can share their information, and also to lead them to the point that we're trying to make, and they discover it through exchanging their own information. And people don't dispute their own data. So they then realize, oh wow, this this can work. I have been doing this, so this is something I can try. It doesn't feel something so out of their kin that they're uncomfortable with it, because they may find things they can do.
Um, and how about some advice what advice would you give to your younger self that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Don't be afraid to step out there. It's when you're young, you think that everybody knows more than me, and I'm just here, and I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and follow along and follow direction. Well, what it turns out is that kind of holds you back. You need to be a little bit bold, a little bit brave, and to say yes to things and get involved with things that are just outside your comfort zone. And I would tell my younger self that it's going to be okay, and to go on and do the thing. Also, that people are also rooting for you more than you think. Folks don't want to see you crash and burn. They really don't.
Yes.
So they're trying to they give you support. They'll tell you what you need to do. People reach out their hand, and sometimes people don't take it. Take the hand. Ask people for a few minutes of their time. They're as long as you get to the point and get on with it, then they're happy to give you a few minutes to help you. They want to see you succeed.
That's really great advice. I wish I had had that advice when I was younger.
I wish I did when I was younger.
Um, so switching over a little bit to handling diversity issues, um, you know, being a woman and a person of color sometimes presents unique challenges in terms of, sometimes being overlooked, undervalued, or underestimated. And so I'm curious if that's something that ever happened to you in your career.
Sometimes, but some of it's how do you deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
If people are talking around you, say you're at a meeting or something, and again, my younger self, you're at a meeting or something, and everybody's this and that and the other thing, and look, Bob, here's what we're going to do. You raise your hand. Excuse me, I have an idea, and here it is. I did that at a meeting, scared the stuffings out of me, but it worked. Is you can be overlooked if you don't say anything. You got to know what to say. And as a woman, you got to get to the point. I've been in meetings where women get overlooked because when they put the point out there, I had this idea on the way to work. Maybe it's a little silly. I don't know. Well, maybe you'll think of something better. 2 hours later, she finally says, here's my idea. Well, everybody's eyes have rolled back in their head. And you have already discounted your point. When men, I watched and men say, here's what I think we should do. And they say whatever it is. And sometimes it's accepted, sometimes it's not. But the idea is out there. I think women get overlooked because we apologize too much. We don't do it as much as we did before. And I think sometimes now we can be too bold. Here's what it is. And you all are going to do what I say. Oh, breathe. To say your point strong, be real clear with it, and then sit down. And let the information soak in, and then participate in the discussion that comes around afterwards.
Yeah, and power of silence. To stop talking. Know when to stop talking, right?
that is so important. What you just said, the power of silence after you've said something. Not to be silent, but say something and then be quiet.
So what are some of the things you did over the course of your career to create opportunities for yourself?
I raised my hand and I took jobs that I wasn't supposed to have. Back in the day, because I'm not a young person anymore, you got out of school and you secretarial jobs, administrative jobs, what they were offering women back in the day. And a friend of mine told me about Xerox was hiring women in sales roles. And I had been an admin ever since. And wanted to get out of that and do something different. And I went in and learned how to sell. Learning how to sell, even though it's not one of my favorite things, it is one of the most important things that you learn. Because it's what points do you need to bring forward? How do you get up in front of somebody that you don't know, somebody new cold calling and that sort of thing? You have to be brave to do that. And shake someone's hand and present your product. That was one of the biggest and most useful skills that I developed along the way. And it helps with the training sometimes too, because you walk into a room, we train big groups of people, 50 people, 60 people in a room at the same time. And then it's you. You've got to own your space. And the sales training was a big help towards understanding how to do that.
Yes, I convinced myself early in my career that I wasn't any good at sales, and it turned out later when I found something I was passionate about, I was very good at sales. So you never know. Sometimes you underestimate yourself. So.
And sales sounds scary.
It does. It does. Talking to people you don't know sounds scary, but sometimes you just, go forward and you do, like you said, you figure out the points, what you need to know, and you go do it.
Yep.
And, and it gets more comfortable over time.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about, there's a lot of discussion lately about advocates and mentors and how they're different. An advocate and mentor are different. What are some of the ways that people could find advocates and mentors for themselves to help advance their careers?
I think a couple of things. One of them is you come into an organization, you need to look around first. Who's in here in the first place? And what is take the temperature of the folks in there. There's some people who can tell you, but they're not good mentors. Everybody's not a good mentor. They might be a good advocate. Who here is on, but looking for that, who here is on my side and wants to see my project, my initiative, whatever it is, move forward. And for that person, you need an advocate. Somebody who's going to go into the meeting with the CEO or whoever is the next level up in your group and say, that's a good program that so-and-so's putting together. Take a look at it. And a mentor, you need somebody who's going to take time with you and help groom you and get you to the next level, or how the company works, or how to move up the ladder, or whatever it is. And that you need somebody who is willing to put in the time, who you can kind of stick your head in their door and say, what just happened? They will tell you. They'll tell you the good and the bad, and they'll help you work on the things that you need to improve. And these folks, whether it's the advocate or the mentor, are not a dime a dozen. But you need to pick somebody who is you feel comfortable talking with. And again, back to bravery. I need somebody to help me. You have a few minutes. And when I say a few minutes, I really do mean a few minutes. Pick a time. You have 15, 20 minutes. And at 19 minutes, you're standing up and you're getting ready to leave. Can you help me? I'm trying to navigate the organization. I'm trying to navigate what's going on around here. I have a program that I want to present, and I need to know how to move it through the organization. Can you help me figure that out? Or if you can't, do you know somebody who could? And then be quiet.
That's great.
You gotta ask.
Any other suggestions you would offer for people looking to advance in their careers, things that they should think about?
One of the big ones is be prepared. I have been in places where people are now fumbling around looking for paper, pens. Look like you're ready to do business. If you're particularly if you're young and moving in, or they're bringing in people of color. And yes, everybody should be rated the same and all that. That's nice. And reality is you're the new person, whatever that means. And you can't come in. Somebody calls you into a meeting and you just walk in, huh? Really? Just a minute. You go and get something to write with. You get you a pen. I think I'm on my way. And in you go. Ready to take notes. Write something down. Pretend to write something down. Because then you look like I'm here to participate as opposed to wandering around. That's one of the things. The ability to write for business is another key thing that young people, and I'm sad to say many older folks as well, do not do well. Business writing is not the same as writing a book. Business writing is to the point, what do I need? 1, 2, 3, net it out and send it. And it needs to be spell checked. It's not in text speak. You don't know where this thing is going. This is going to represent you when you're not there. So learn how to write a succinct, concise, as my old boss used to say, pithy email, document, so that it tells people what you need them to do. Because that's something that nobody's ever going to say, if you just ran spell check, maybe I'd have promoted you. But in reality, if you really did just run spell check, they might have promoted you. It's one of the things now, because they don't even do that. So they're never going to tell you that, but that's one of the reasons why you may not move.
Absolutely. Yes. Definitely seen that in action before. That's really great advice. So shifting gears a little bit to talk a bit more about diversity in the workplace. And the world has obviously changed a lot. There's a lot of new unspoken rules. And people maybe don't even realize some of the things they're doing may no longer be appropriate or acceptable. What are some of the common things that you see happening, maybe unintentional things that people say or do to women, to other, to marginalized groups that maybe they're unaware are offensive?
There's a couple of things. One thing happened the other day. where somebody in my office, a female in my office, was bringing something from the garage into the building. It was great, big, heavy something. There was a guy who who had been through a diversity and inclusion training at the beginning training and whatnot. And he was at the top of the stairs watching her. He stopped me later and said, everything in me wanted to go and say, can I take that for you? But he was scared to say that because he didn't want to be seen as putting her down and she's too weak to carry these things and or whatever. His natural gentlemanly tendencies, he started to question, what should I do? And a lot of people feel that way. I told him he should have just gone and said, let me give you a hand, and let her say, no, I got it. But people don't know what to do, and they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing and hurt someone's feelings or somehow make a demeaning statement unintentional. So, as you said, everything's changed so quickly and everybody's walking on eggshells. That is one of the things that just happened recently. There's also things that are in the lexicon that you don't realize what you're saying to somebody. And because everybody says that. There are little phrases like paddy wagon. We're going to put you in the paddy wagon. And everybody, ha, 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 ha. That was a negative connotation for Irish people back in the day. Indian giver, things like that people don't even think about until the person for whom that implied that is targeted towards comes back and they're stunned or they feel hurt by you. Why would he say that? And so there's lots of things that people don't realize that they're saying, and it's going to take a minute.
Yeah. So what does someone do if they're trying to do the right thing? They're trying to create an inclusive environment, but they've done it wrong and they didn't get it right. Is it better just to leave it as it is, don't mess with it? Or, you could make it worse. Or what advice would you give to people who, maybe said something and then it dawns on them that wasn't the right thing to say?
It's an apology. There was a lady in my office, and I was talking to her the other day, and I called her Amy. The other lady in her group, Amy, is Asian. She's Asian. And I had been talking to her for a few minutes. I realized, oh my goodness, this is not this woman's name. Oh my gosh. To just slink away implies that you'll have to get over it. But I stopped and I am so sorry. That's not your name. Your name is Kim. I am so sorry. She was okay with it, whatever, but I made the mistake. I owe her the apology. If somebody says something or does something, then go to somebody. This is what happened the other day. I hope you weren't offended. That was not my intention. That's all you can say. You can't speak for them. You should get over it. You should be all right. That was not my intention. I don't want to do anything to hurt your feelings or make you feel uncomfortable. My apologies. And then again, the power of silence. Walk away. If they want to say something else, they can. But a simple, short apology is your best bet.
Thank you. That's super helpful. It's all very different now, so
yes,
it's good to get some advice on that. And I'm also curious, you did diversity training in 2001, mm-hmm. and you just recently did 4 days of DEI training.
Mm-hmm.
for a group that you work with. How has the message changed, and what are some of the key takeaways that are things you want people to know today?
It is it is so incredibly different in the past 20 years. It's stunningly different. At first, we were talking about race and gender, a little bit about sexual orientation, though people didn't want to talk too much about that. That's as far as it kind of got. You would talk about um, what you can't say, racial epithets and things like that that you shouldn't say. Um, but now it's much more. It's so broad where it's the pronouns that you have to think about, and that things are on a spectrum of gender. You can be a really girly girl, or you could be somebody who's got a more masculine approach to life and still being female. So it's there's all those elements to consider. There's culture. It's holidays. Used to, and 20 years ago, people thought nothing of talking. We have Christmas off at our companies, and that's it. Well, I don't celebrate Christmas. What am I supposed to do now? I'm Jewish. What about Hanukkah? Well, it's it's expansive to the point of being a little scary for everyone, where people want to celebrate their difference, but they also still want to fit in. So it's back and forth for everybody. So as you're talking about diversity, what now I think we're at awareness. I don't think that as the culture of America or the culture of the world is that we have a solution. We don't have a solution. We have awareness. And awareness can be a little overwhelming, but necessary to understand that these are the things you have to consider. You can't just decide that this person who was born as a male is going to have to deal with the fact I'm going to call you he, whether you want it or not. Well, so we have to accept, and we have to learn to accept the differences of people. It's not just what we're used to. It's not about you.
That's great. Hard. It's different, and it is hard. So do you have another piece of advice? Maybe you could offer one last piece of advice for our viewers that you think they should know or think about?
I do a lot with business image, and this is another thing that's gotten to be, it's a big change over the last 2 years. It was starting to become more casual before that, but now all bets are off. And as people are coming back into the offices, even if it's on a hybrid system, and even sometimes over Zoom, there's a professional level you still need to achieve. Because you're in a business, I'm just talking about work stuff now. You're in a business environment. If you were at the office and they said, let's all meet in the meeting room, would you really be naked? Yeah. And I say that, it sounds facetious, but I've had more than a few people call me and say, could you say this to somebody? Naked. T-shirts that say something that's frightening across the front. Hair not combed. What's in the background? People have had all sorts of things, from X-rated to dangerous. In the background, you're sitting there and people are listening to you and looking at, what is that on their wall? It's all these sorts of things that we have to think about. But how you present in your workspace, whether that's virtually or face to face, matters because it speaks to your judgment. So, do you look like you could see a customer? Do you look like you should lead a team? Do you look like you know what you're talking about? And that goes through a whole spectrum of things. If you are in the IT team and you're going to be installing equipment and things like that, and you show up in a three-piece suit, people are worried. Where are you going? This is not what the job requires. Conversely, you're in the office and you've got customers to see, and you've got the distressed jeans and a Grateful Dead T-shirt and 14 earrings and you know purple hair, because now no one's listening to you. They're looking at this outfit,
Yeah.
and you could have the cure for cancer. You could be laying out the cure for cancer, and nobody's heard it because they're trying to figure why is your hair like that? And adults do that because that's how the adult brain works.
That's great advice. All right. So before we wrap up, I want to do a little lightning round with you so that our viewers can learn a little bit more about you. So my first question is, what is your favorite hotel that you would love to return to?
Oh, there's a hotel in Santa Fe, New Mexico that has a spa. It's in the hills. It's beautiful. And I have completely forgotten the name. I thought about it this morning at 6 a.m. and now it's gone.
It'll come back to you when the moment that you need it.
Mhm.
And do you have a bucket list hotel, a hotel that you hope to stay at one day?
There's a group of hotels overseas called the Smith Hotels. And I have one of my best friends and her husband travel extensively, and they go to Smith Hotels. And they're all boutiques, and the service is lovely. The views are beautiful. The rooms are lovely. It's a whole atmosphere. And she comes back and she sends pictures. Thanks a lot. Oh man, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And it's hotels that really um, go that extra mile and do something that's different. You can get the regular cookie cutter hotels
Yep.
that are there so that you can feel comfortable if you're at this hotel in DC or Tulsa or Venezuela, you're going to get the same thing. But the boutique hotels are just the Smith hotels.
All right. All right. I'm adding that to my list.
Mhm.
What is your favorite movie?
It's such a girl movie. You've Got Mail.
That is a good movie. All
It's
right.
happy. No one's ever hurt. It's just cheerful.
There you go. Favorite band or artist?
My favorite. I have two artists that I love. I am an artist. My sister and I have been in art school from the age of 4, and I love portraits and things and pictures of people. Kahinde, who did President Obama's portrait for the portrait gallery. His work is beautiful. I love him, and I like M.C. Escher. M.C. Escher was an artist from the 1920s, 30s, and pencil drawings. And he has the one where you have the hand drawing the other hand. I love M.C. Escher.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And what is your idea of a perfect day?
Whew. Um, Family in, food ordered. um, just my sister, my daughter, and I do game nights, and we have a ball, just laughing. Now my grandson, who's 9 now, has joined in, so he plays along with us, and we had about 20 people here with game night over the holidays, and it was, you just kind of stand back and say, this is really wonderful. That was a wonderful day, and that will stay with me.
That's a wonderful thing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping we'll all be back together at the holidays again this year.
Mm-hmm.
We all missed that recently. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. I really appreciate your time, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge, and just to share your perspective, I really appreciate your time. And your
Thank you very much for inviting me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.